did you know Professor Karski?
I had him, my recollection is for 3 classes: comparative politics, comparative government, it was called, Soviet politics, in a seminar during the course of 2 years.
So what kind of an impression did he make?
Indelible, I think is the word. He was really an amazing man. He was the most exciting professor to have. He was really an entertainer. So he was someone who had great passion and spoke, I would say, to us as peers, even though we were undergraduates and never deserved that. And so assumed that we had the passion for the subject matter that he did. I did, just because of him, I think. And it was an amazing thing. This was before the internet and Wikipedia, so in order to find out who he was, it was the first time I'd ever heard of the term nom de guerre, because Karski's, that's what his name was from the resistance. I read his book, The Story of the Secret State.
Back in the 70s.
And I still have it. I read it in probably 1978 or 77, and it was neat. So he spoke very little of his experience in the war. One story that's stuck in my mind, and I actually spoke to classmates about it last week in anticipation of coming here, but he was an interesting guy.
Can you share the story with me?
Sure. The one I remember is you would never know what he did unless you read the books and some of the articles about him that we could find. And but he would occasionally make allusions to the fact that he'd worked in the Second World War. So, and I don't know the term he used, but I want to say it was work, but it was something else. He was busy during the Second World War. And the one story that I remember is about horses. And my 2 classmates, when I asked them to give me something to impart to this little group, was about horses. And my recollection is that he told us one time, and he ended the class, and we all remember him ending the class the same way, was that he told us he'd been smuggled into a concentration camp. I don't remember which one. You know, it's recorded in the books now. And told us he'd seen the prisoners, he'd seen the guards, he'd seen the dogs, he'd seen cruelty. I remember using the word cruelty. He had this real accented voice where he spoke English better than anybody in the class. And I remember him referring to the buildings where the exterminations had taken place. And I remember him using the word extermination. And then he said he'd been smuggled out. And what I next remember is that he told us he'd gone to the White House. And he described in detail the White House and the fact that he was in the White House. It was him in the White House. And I remember him feeling like it's me in the White House. It took us through that some people, they listened to him respectfully, and some people asked him some questions, and he was disappointed clearly the way he conveyed it. And some people concluded that, thank you, and some people said, that's okay, but I don't believe you. And they ended the story and left the room by saying that the questions that he remembered were about the horses. And he said he'd been asked questions about, well, how many horses were they? Were they well cared for? How were they being used? And he said, they asked me the questions about the horses. Why? We didn't know. We had no idea. Because horses had military value. And then he turned and left the room. And just saying that, I'm getting shivers because I do remember that. And, you know, you're supposed to think for yourself when you're 20 years old. And it took us a while, but we figured out what he was saying. It was amazing stuff. That's the one thing that really sticks out.
And why do you think Karski's legacy is now important today?
Karski's legacy is something that's way undervalued in my view. Karski is a great man, so it's individual courage, and the fact that you can speak up and people might not believe you or don't understand, or you're way ahead of your time, and the world is really short of those people in every environment, every situation, every profession. But he was a super confident guy. He was a superhero. That's what he was.
So is it fair to say you're excited about the Jan Karski National Centennial campaign that we're launching tonight?
I am. It's way overdue. I stopped here and I looked at the sculpture downstairs, and I'm sitting down. It's older than he was. He was in his mid-60s then, so they've given him a cane. But he was a hero, a superhero, so he didn't need a cane. That's my recollection. But yes, it's way overdue, both for the United States and Poland and Jewish community all over the world.
Thank you so much. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
Thank
Thanks.
you.